Welcome to this second webinar on the series from organized by CMCC on urban adaptation. The first was broadcast on the 28th of May, and it was on strategies and tools. I will leave later the speakers we have today, which I welcome, to introduce themselves. They are Katia Ferrari and Francesco Matteucci from Greentech, and my name is Valentina Giannini. I work for the CMCC Foundation. Welcome everybody to this webinar today. I will first very briefly introduce the Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change. This is an Italian research foundation. It's a non-profit organization, and its mission, as you're reading on the screen now, is to investigate and model our climate system and its interactions with society to provide reliable, rigorous, and timely scientific results to stimulate sustainable growth, protect the environment, and develop science-driven adaptation and mitigation policies in a changing climate. CMCC has 7 offices which are spread all around Italy, as you can see in the map. The headquarters are in southern Italy, in the Apulia region, in the city of Lecce, and I'm living in Venice. This is where I live and work. It has 9 research divisions, and as I was saying, according to the mission, they range from scientific computing to climate simulation modeling and prediction, ocean modeling, and then impacts on agriculture, forests, and ecosystems, economic impacts and assessments, to sustainable earth modeling economics. To these 9 research divisions correspond a various range of topics. We are an interdisciplinary research group, so we deal with the future Earth, with oceans, with jobs and growth, with energy, and with many more topics, which are all related to climate change impacts and mitigations and adaptation. This webinar series, as I was saying, is on the cities and what cities can do in a practical way and a political way to adapt to climate change. One of the missions of CMCC is also the outreach activities, which are based on organizing a series of events, such as this webinar series, but much more. We have publications, we have communications through a series of newsletters, news and events which are published online, and we also have an education activity. So going into more details of today's session, you are able to participate in listen-only mode, but should you wish to ask questions, you can use the chat function and type questions all along the webinar, and I will try to summarize and pose these questions to our panelists today. Should we not have the time to answer all your questions, please feel free to interact with us, either sending an email to CMCC or directly to the speakers. You will have later on their contact information. So please note that this webinar is being recorded, and it will be uploaded as all the other ones on CMCC's YouTube channel. So you will be able to go back and see it should you need to, as well as access all the other webinars that we have broadcast in the past. The next webinar will be on June 9th. And the topic, the theme will be meeting well below 2 degrees target would increase energy sector jobs. The moderator will be Alessandro Tavoni, the speaker Johannes Emmerling, and the discussant Zoe Vrontisi. We will also have another series, and we will continue this series of webinars on urban adaptation. We have no times and dates as of now, but I would like to let you know that we will touch upon topics of nature-based solutions for resilient cities, urban heat island, water management, and much more. So please stay tuned. We will try with this webinar series to provide experience, perspective by experts from different disciplinary fields. So I will leave the floor now to Francesco so that he can start his presentation. Please, Francesco. There. Here you are. So please, Francesco, if you can briefly introduce yourself and then start your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning to everybody. Thanks, Valentina. My name is Francesco Matteucci. I work for Greentech Cluster. After having worked as a researcher at the CNR for many years, I worked as an innovation manager within a company in the field of renewable energies, and since 7 years I'm working as an intermediary of knowledge in different with different roles there, and innovation. Now today my colleague Katia and me will try to to answer. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Let me open the presentation. Yes, it's working. Today my presentation will be focused on the topic of participatory policy development processes and environmental sustainability, and it will be divided in three main topics. The first one will be just to introduce you the participatory processes, on which I have to highlight that we are not scientists or researchers on this topic, but we apply. So I will try just to give you examples starting from the theory, and then showing you what participatory processes can be used in, and this is the second part, within the field of innovation and sustainable development, going just from the European level to the national and regional level. Then my colleague Katia will introduce herself, and we show you some examples of these processes within our region, Emilia-Romagna. And now, going to the definition, what is a participatory process? What are they? Are methods employed, as you can read from here, just to participate through an active way, involving people, just trying to get the decision-making process more participative. That means that this approach can be used for complex systems, can be used in different, field of research, and we have to say that this is not a very ancient way of collaborating. It is said that briefly it started in the 50s, and for the first 20 years, what they did not understand was just, if you do a participatory process top down, then it's not working in the proper way. So starting from the 70s, we have seen, and everybody is now working in a more open-minded way of doing participatory processes. And this means that we have to work when we involve all the people going inside, seeing the topic in a comparison, what we do in the technological innovation with an open mind. It means just to approach it in an open innovation. And so you can see here from the image on the left side of the screen, you can see the closed innovation. That means you are not open to inputs and outputs from everywhere, but in a closed way, you just get your limited way of inputs, and you give no outputs or limited outputs. While in an open innovation approach, and in the same way, in a participatory policy development process, you have to be open to get inputs and give outputs in a transparent way, get all your results accessible, discuss. You have to get what it is said. It is very important to develop a joint undertaking, feel the people that participate as to feel that they are part of the process. They are, as we can see here, there are some steps, and the first steps involves the capacity building. It means that if we want to explain, if we want to discuss with people, we have to be sure that they know the topic, that they have got the basic of the topics we want to discuss. So we have to increase the awareness on the topic. Then it is very important to define the problem, what we want to get back from this process. And to do this, we have to start discussing the needs of the participants. We have to assess their needs. Then we have to do the most difficult part, to co-create all the issues that we want to put inside our final aim. The final aim in the case of participatory policy, it's a policy. But to make an open-minded policy, we have to be sure that the developed policies has been developed thanks to a co-creation process. So all experiences that be collected, shared, processed, and everybody has to feel that his words are important, are taken at the same level of discussion among all the others. Then once we develop the policy, the other three steps are very important, and are the steps that can get the best way to develop and to upgrade the policy. So we have to implement, we have to define the actions, but more important is to define how to monitor. We have to see the indicators. We have to do in a certain way such that indicators are transparent, are discussed among the participants, and in the end, we can upgrade the policies, we can upgrade the indicators. But as you can see, the most important part of the process is just to discuss it in an open-minded way. And this why, in this case, we will speak about participatory processes in sustainable development, because there are no words. It's clear, it's evident for everybody that we have to look for it, sustainable development for the future. And this means that we have to do it in a participatory process, because this is how it worked since the 1972, where generally said that starting from the documents Limit to Growth done by the Club of Rome, they just started to see that we have to change something. And to change, one of the final most important documents, obviously, it's the Agenda 2030, and in this agenda, all the topics are the results of a participatory process. I mean, when we look at the numbers, we see that millions of people participating in the development of the 2030 agenda, and there is a dedicated goal that states that we have to do policies in a way that they have to be responsive, inclusive, and they have to be done through a participatory process. And all the representatives have to be done at the decision-making levels. At the decision-making levels, it has to arrive the results of the discussion among all the participants. And this has been there has been a dedicated event at the high-level political forum of Agenda 2030 in 2019, exactly to see how important it is to empower people, ensure inclusiveness and equity, to show people that they can participate in such processes. Because if we, as it is stated by OECD, if we are able to show that the sustainable development policies are the result of an open process, of a transparent process, then we will see that an increasing number of participants will take part of this process. And now let us see how we can look in parallel the topic of the innovation and the sustainable development. There are, as is well known, innovation-related policies, and one of these policies are, I mean, they started since the European 2030 strategy with its aim, and one of the aim really connects innovation with sustainable development. We see that the second aim is just to develop a Europe that has to be a sustainable growth, promoting a more resource efficient, greener, and competitive economy. This has been done by the EU approaching the smart specialization strategies, that are approaches where each region of the members countries have been obliged to develop their own strategy at the regional level through a participatory process. That means they have to define which are the priorities, where they want to get their money. And this means to get their money that they will have to invest this money. But once again, this is the result of a discussion inside the regions. Regions has to develop these strategies. Then before getting the money, they discuss it with the EU, and then they get back the results of the EU, and then they can finalize these regional innovation strategies. And this is done to increase the competitiveness of all the regions, and also to give the regions the possibility to discuss among them these priorities. There are already initiatives within the regional innovation strategies that give the regions the possibility to collaborate between regions. This has started first with the Vanguard initiative, where regions collaborated on common topics just to increase the efficacy of regional innovation strategies. And when we look at the topic of the effort that EU has put inside sustainable development, we see that it has been one of the first aim, starting from the first year of the 2000s, that EU has been committing all its policies toward the sustainable development. And now we see that exactly inside the European Green Deal, we see that European Commissions had put all its 10 priorities linked to the SDGs. And so we see, and this is important to discuss, that we see the progress of the model of the participatory process from the sustainable development to the innovation ecosystem, up and down. And this has been very important. If we see which are the 6 priorities for the next program of the EU, we see that everything can be and is linked to the sustainable development. We see the timeline on the right part of the screen, and we see how in a very short time, EU want to increase its participatory process in developing policies and in making actions inside sustainable development. And this has been done not only at the European level, but going down at the first step, we see what happened at the national level. We see that part of the United Nations, the UNDESA, says that this level of sustainable development has to be linked to the national level. And we see that it has to ensure a broad participation and an effective partnership. In this case, effective means, once again, that it has to be an open process. And if we go down, we see that the same way also the OECD stated concerning the national climate and energy policies that they have to rely on participatory process and analyzing the data and giving the decision making, the policy makers, the results of this open process. And this has been done in Italy with what is called PNIEC, the Piano Nazionale Integrato Energia Clima. And this has been done has been defined at the end of 2019. And now we are looking also linked to the problem, to the issue of the COVID, that now many of these objectives, many of these final aims of this national program will have to be updated, will have to be discussed. This is the right time to see what we can do at not only EU national level, but also at the regional level. So our region, Emilia-Romagna, just developed through a progressive participatory process that my colleague Katia will show you, the smart specialization strategy, using its 20 years old high technology network, that is the network of all the actors of the ecosystem of innovation, where we can see the participation not only of research centers, universities, but companies, small, medium, and enterprises and big companies. We see also that there are many what we call intermediaries of knowledge, entities, associations, based on the regional government using its, we could say, innovation regional agency that now is ARTER, just to collaborate, to animate, to facilitate the development of the process of innovation, mainly also on sustainable development. And so there are new actors. We are part of these actors that has been founded by the regions, but the regions put the money, but then the management of these entities are done by private companies, the research centers and its members, and these new entities are the clusters. There are 7 clusters based on the 7 priorities stated by Emilia-Romagna region within its smart specialization strategy. And one of these clusters and one of these priorities that is said a transversal priority, an horizontal priority, is the one on energy and sustainability. And here I represent the Greentech. And here we see what has been done by the cluster. And the cluster is once again a location, a site, an association where we see there are several players, different players participating to the innovation process. There are research centers, there are companies, there are policymakers and training institutions, and we are in the middle. We have to do what is called a multi-language approach. We have to discuss and understand the different languages. We have to put them together all in one association. And we see that we act, these are our regional specialization sectors and its impact on the economy. We see our pillars of the regional, and these pillars obviously have their coming back inside the economy, but also inside jobs and growth. And what we see inside the participatory process of our association is just linking together. The purpose of the research is that it is to produce knowledge. And on the other side, the purpose of innovation, that is to produce wealth. We know that nowadays there are economic indicators that show that countries where there is a higher investment in innovation, in putting research as much as possible going toward the market, these countries that invest the highest amount of money inside research, development, innovation are the countries that are able to assure its citizens with a high wellness inside the country. And so it is important to put together to what is said, to exploit the research results, both coming from the public and the private research, but we have to be able to create, as we showed before, the different steps in a participatory process. We have to create the capacity building, to discuss, to co-create the innovation topics, and then to implement them and to monitor them. We see that we were born more or less only 24 months ago, and we already have 74 members divided between research centers and companies, and we are trying to increase the number of participants in order to give to our region the most efficacy of our proposals. Because as I said before, we are in the middle from the research, the business, and also, and most important, the education, but mainly the policymakers. We have to collect the ideas, to filter the ideas, and to give them to the decision makers, to the policy makers, in order to have a regional strategies focused on the topic required by the business sector and the research sector. And many of these topics we can really assure that are linked to the sustainable development, how to implement, how to facilitate the process of the bureaucracy in our regions, just to develop, for example, power plants, just to develop power plants for renewable energies, just to develop pilot plants for technologies that will have to be developed by the companies, thanks to the public money, thanks to developing public-private partnership. So in conclusion, giving the word to my colleague, I would like just to highlight some key messages. We see that it is very important to make an efficient participatory policy development process, just to engage the civil society, what is said, to engage all the stakeholders that are active inside sustainable development. In this case, everybody. We know that everybody has to participate to sustainable development to make it real, to make it happen. And then we have to engage the more we will be able to engage the people, all the stakeholders, and the more we'll give the legitimacy to the decisions, to the norms. So policymakers should really consider to invest resources, starting from the capacity building, and they should strive toward transparency, because only in this way we will be able to get the application of the people inside the sustainable development. And this is the last sentence. I give now the floor to my colleague Katia. Let me give her the word. Okay.
I have no the okay. Thank you very much, Francesco. Let me show you my slide. I'm Katia. I work with Francesco for the cluster Greentech of the Emilia-Romagna region. I have a degree in environmental sciences and a PhD in engineering, but we also have a strong experience in network innovation and management. So I will show you some important steps that the Emilia-Romagna region have done and our role in that process. The Emilia-Romagna region considers the clusters as subjects capable of contributing to the definition of the regional development strategies. In 2018, just one after its establishment, the cluster Greentech has been called by the region to collaborate in the revision of our S3 strategy together with the other clusters that Francesco have shown. 2 years were left until the end of the period embraced by the regional strategy, and some actualization were necessary. We organized 3 participatory meetings around the region in Parma, as you can see in the map, Bologna and Cesena, to meet our members, but also other stakeholders active in the sector of energy and sustainability. They were participatory preparatory meetings because with the coordination of ARTE, the Emilia-Romagna Consortium for Innovation and Technology Transfer, 7 forums were organized in the region, 1 for each cluster, to present and discuss the new strategic objectives which will be part of the S3 regional strategy for each sector. For our sector, 3 new strategic objectives for each value chain have been identified. We work through 2 value chains, so biomethane and other biofuels, smart energy systems, energy efficiency and low carbon solutions for industry are the new strategic objectives identified for the value chain low carbon economy. And sustainable development of coastal areas, anthropical impacts on air quality and climate change, and circular economy and sustainable development for the value chain, environmental sustainability and ecosystem services. We also work on training and the identification of competencies. We speak with our members and the stakeholders to understand what is needed for the future, particularly in the private sector, and try to work with the region to identify the new curricula for the future. In 2018, again, the cluster, coordinated by ARTE, engaged their members and all the other regional actors in another forum, focused this time on Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. We organized 3 events where we discussed 3 main topics together with other clusters, so in a transsectorial approach. The first meeting in Modena was about City of the Future, new perspective for sustainable urban environment. The second in Bologna was about sustainable agri-food systems, and the last in Ravenna was related with efficient and innovative production systems. Unlike the previous year, all the clusters worked together, and the final report has been produced and made available for the regional policymakers. It's online if you want to see, but it's in Italian, I'm sorry. Containing indication for research and innovation focused on the theme of the Agenda 2030. The aim of this forum was rereading the trajectories of the S3 strategy in a transversal way, having as reference some goals of the agenda, the main goals for us, for our territory. When the coronavirus pandemic crisis exploded, we were at the beginning of the work together with ARTE for the definition of the first draft of the new strategy for the next period, 2021-2027. 15 cross-sectoral priority thematic areas have been identified, but we stopped because of the coronavirus, and we are now starting the work, hoping to obtain soon the first draft that is to be discussed with the European community by the region. When we work with the region, in order to contribute to the participatory process, our thematic working group created by our members in 2019 are activated depending on the respective sector and skills of each working group. So we actually have 9 working groups active, and they are hydrogen, as energy vector, power to gas, carbon capture utilization and storage, energy efficiency and renewables, bio, natural liquefied gas, water depuration, circular economy, indoor air quality, and finally sustainable development of the port of Ravenna. The Greentech cluster participates also at the thematic technical scientific committee for the monitoring of the regional energy plan approved in 2017. The plan identifies 3 main objectives to be achieved by the region by 2030. As you can see in the slide, these objectives are very ambitious. And the first is the reduction of 30% of the greenhouse gas emissions in relation to 1990. The second, the increasing of 27% of renewable energy sources in relation to gross final consumption. And about energy efficiency, the reduction of 27% of the consumption in relation to the trends. In 2018, a regional strategy for climate change was approved by the region. The Greentech cluster participates at the permanent regional forums organized by DART, a tool for sharing the regional choices on these issues and discuss it with the stakeholders. The forum was strongly wanted by the region, and it brings together local authorities, environmental associations, reclamation consortia, representatives of the world of agriculture and business in every sector related to climate changes, so all the sectors. About circular economy, another permanent forum exists in the region and counts with the participation of some of our members. The forum is an operative tool of the regional law number 16 of 2015 regarding the circular economy, aiming at reducing, reusing, and recycling nuclear waste. And the strengths of this law are mainly that it's the first regional law in Italy on circular economy. It was born from a bottom-up process with the law, with the participation of municipal and provincial council, associations, and territories. The law is a starting point for concrete and transversal actions wanted by the region to improve circular economy initiatives. Another, as you can see in the slide, I put another instrument of this law, that is the Regional Waste Management Plan that covered the period 2016-2020. Greentech cluster is also committed to support the local authorities in order to strengthen the awareness and the activities in the sustainable development sector. One of our first actions was to sign a collaboration agreement with the regional delegation of ANCI, the National Association of Italian Municipalities, in 2019. Recently, our cluster is also one of the several strategic partners of the local authorities and municipal chambers of commerce for the implementation of projects financed by the region this year in the framework of the regional strategy towards the implementation of Agenda 2030. We participate also in other observatories like Greener, the Regional Observatory on Green Economy, led by Arthur again, that provide numerical and quantitative characterization of the regional green economy, facilitating the identification of management of sustainable financial instruments and planners. At local level, we are one of the members of the Observatory on Chemistry, promoted by the municipality of Ravenna, and also of the work table of the port of the same city, that joins all the relevant players to find innovative solutions to make the port more sustainable and digital. At national level, just an overview, ENEA, the Italian National Agency for New Technologies, Energy and Sustainable Economic Development, which is our member through its regional delegation, coordinates two important platforms. These platforms are for us a way to see what is happening at national level and to capitalize in our region. ECIP, Italian Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, promotes the dissemination of knowledge, encourage dialogue and possible synergies to map Italian good practices and encourage the integration of initiatives at Italian level. It also implements a permanent operational tool that can promote and facilitate intersectoral dialogue and interaction and to spread Italian excellences and the Italian way of making circular economy. In the slide, you can see the link to check the platform. And finally, another national platform coordinated by Enea, launched in 2018, aimed at achieving self-sufficiency in the phosphorus cycle, a critical material, collecting best practices for recovering phosphorus from waste, disseminating information regarding the phosphorus supply chain, and to encourage the conservation and recovery of phosphorus. This was some example of how the cluster, together with other clusters, is involved by the region with the coordination of ARTER. And in this final slide, you can find our email if you want to contact us. We will be happy to answer you. Thank you very much. And I let again the floor to Valentina.
Hello. You can leave, Katia, maybe the slide so that. Okay. Okay, while we do this, I will start by reading the first question. So first of all, a few of you have asked whether or not the slides will be available. The slides per se will not be available, but the webinar has been recorded, and you will find the recording of this on the YouTube channel of CMCC, which is accessible also through the website. So
I can see that, sorry, Valentina, I can see that, I can say that if you want the slide, you can write to our email and I can provide you the slides.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Katia, you're a presenter again, so if you could please share the last slide again so that people have your contact information. Okay, and I will start reading the questions. We've received a few, so I don't know whether or not we will have time to answer all the questions, but the presenters have kindly agreed to be contacted personally after the webinar. So the first question is how sustainable development is integrated with circular economy? I will leave it to Katia Ferrari and Francesco Matteucci to decide who wants to answer this question.
You want to answer, Katia?
If you want. Okay, our region is working on Agenda 2030 with like other institutions. And for example, in the slide, I will go to the slide to help me to answer. Okay, for example, this new project are financed by the region to implement initiatives by the business sectors towards the circular economy, industrial symbiose, and so on. So we try to focus some goals on these actions and make it very inclusive, involving all the stakeholders locally and also regionally. So of course, we in circular economy and all the actions that aim at achieving a more circular, productive and sustainable economy in the region are acting in one part of the agenda, because the Agenda 2030 is wide and is very articulated. So in my opinion, circular economy is a tool to go towards a sustainable society. So it's just a tool, one of many tools, because we have to act on education also, as you can see, poverty, inclusion, and so on. So it's a part of this. I don't know if I have answered to the question. I hope so.
Thank you. So the next question is a question for clarification. How do you measure effectiveness of participatory processes beyond the open participation? If everyone participates in the process, who is checking its effectiveness? And the person who poses this question is asking for perhaps, if you could provide perhaps a practical example of this.
Yeah, there are many ways to check and to get the indicators. We generally do not use the theoretical ones, because the theoretical ones might be to give surveys, to check through surveys. What we try to do is really to make the simplified approach within participatory process that stands for the fact that we try really to involve all the participants, to discuss with them the topics, and in terms of getting their feedbacks, we really try to do very easy surveys. I personally strongly believe that it's important to get the answers and everything else, but I strongly believe that we are so much overcrowded of surveys, and so I try really to discuss with Katia to have surveys very easy to get the feedback immediately. And in terms of openness, we always say, as Katia now said, this is our email, our mobile phone, you can call us wherever you want. So, as I repeat, we do not always, I mean, very rarely applicate what the theory would like to do, that are really surveys, strong answers, and so on, but we try to simplify it.
Okay, thank you. And then we have some sort of follow-up question actually to this. Participatory policy development sounds good, but how do you ensure representative participation in the process? And how cost-effective is it compared to other alternatives?
In terms of cost effectiveness, I would say that we have been created as clusters just to make the process in a way of being more participative and more simplified, because we are exactly an intermediary. So we are obliged to collect as much as possible all the topics, all the issues from all the stakeholders, just to make them really summarized, to discuss our summary with them, and then we forward it to the policymakers.
Then there is another still on some sort of participatory usefulness. How could be participate as a research center? How can one participate with its regional center, if I understand, with its research center to the regional effort? How is it possible to, I suppose that the person was trying to ask, how is it possible to be included in participatory processes?
You answer, Katia?
Yeah, in the region, the Emilia-Romagna, I will answer for our region. At regional level, our region work since a lot of years in trying to identify and recognize formally the actors. So there is a system led by Arthur. You can find the contacts on Arthur or contact us to ask. For example, a research center, both public or private, is necessary that is recognized by the region through a process, and then is part of a system, the network, innovation network of the region, and participate to the meeting and to all the process that the region, and as you can see, are a lot, the region is promoted. So is necessary to join some for example, some cluster, or to be recognized by the region. So there are processes to be done, and there is perhaps it's interesting to say that there is an open innovation platform that is new for our region. The name is EROI, E-R-O-I, I think so, and is organized and led by Arthur again. Each person can inscribe himself to the platform, and find a network of people working on innovation in all the sectors. So this is another way to get close and to begin to know the network in Emilia-Romagna. Or if the person that is asking prefer to call me or to write to me and to ask more in detail, I will be happy to go to the detail with the person.
Okay, I suppose the person maybe wanted to ask a more general question on how the stakeholders or the experts are invited to participate in the participatory process, because from his name, I don't think he's Italian, so maybe he wanted to know more generally.
Normally, they are invited. The entities that are invited in these processes are, for example, business enterprises inscribed in a category, or a cluster, or an association of productive sectors, or some university. So there are associations or other kind of entities that collect person working on the same sector that are in contact with the region. So they are invited. We, for example, we participate to represent all our members. So it's not a person-to-person relationship. A person need to be in a community to be included in the process.
Okay, thank you. Then moving on to other issues, there is one question to Katia, but as usual, I will leave it to you to decide who will answer. Katia just mentioned the strategy being discussed with the European Union. Is there a European Union financing for the regional strategy of Emilia-Romagna?
Yes, of all the region in the member states. Yes, normally I put the slide. Yes, the RIS-3 strategy are designed by each region in all the member states, but are discussed with the Commission, the European Commission. So the process, we are part of the process. The lead of the process is the region with Arthur, but simplifying is that our RIS strategy is at the this year. So the region need to present the first draft for the next period to the Commission, and then it begins a process to obtain the new strategy, hopefully this year. I don't know with coronavirus, but the idea is that. So this is why the European Commission then will finance that. Yes, of course. The strategy is the base for the financial dotation that the region will have to finance innovation, research, and so on.
Okay, thank you. Yes, let's hope that the new strategy will be developed and approved. So then there is another question. To what degree do the speakers think a digital commons is an important part of this collaborative picture? Because a lot of data, a lot of public interest data is privately held, and those holders, at least for the energy sector, are often reluctant to make their information public and license it for reuse.
Francesco, would you like to answer that, or?
Okay, this is a very real problem. We face this problem more or less every week, because we try to explain that the development of what is called energetic communities or energy communities can be developed only if you share your data, obviously through all the, the logic of getting them as you want to give someone your data. But nowadays, the use of the data is mainly limited also by the ignorance of the people that do not know what someone can do with this data, so their first reaction is, I store it in my PC and I don't want to give it to anybody. So the use of this is generally done by the DSO or TSO, that are the distributed system operator or the transmittance system operator, that use it for their own purposes because they are business companies. So this is a problem. We face this problem in many communities, and I strongly believe that the only way is just to keep on explaining, doing capacity building, explaining that if you are really able to create an energetic community, you will save your money and you will use the energy in a more efficient way. But this is not easy. That is one of the issues why generally in the participatory process, the first step is just to do capacity building.
Okay, so I think I've read all the questions, so I will leave maybe a few minutes to see whether or not some more questions are asked through the chat. And meanwhile, I will leave the floor to Katia Ferrari or Francesco Matteucci to make maybe some additional comment on thinking about the questions or that they did not have the time to make earlier.
Giving the floor to Katia, I only want to state that what I hope that Katia and me were able to show is that the Emilia-Romagna region is not the best way, obviously. There are many ways. Each way has to start from the peculiarities of the territory. But the most important fact for Emilia-Romagna region is that the combination of the innovation policies and sustainable development policies, this combination is based on the logic of the participatory process. But this started 20 years ago, not 2 years ago. It's not a process, and it has really many steps to be done to be really efficient, but it took already 20 years to create a community, to facilitate it. It really takes a lot of time, a long period, just to develop also what is, in my opinion, very important, is the capability to everybody to trust in each other. This is what I wanted to say. I give you the floor, Katia.
Yeah, just to say that when the cluster has been founded in 2017, the idea was to reinforce the dialogue and the collaboration between, in particular between the business sector and the research and training sector, because they are many times they are working with different speeds. So the idea of collaboration is wonderful, but the difficulty is that in our economic environment that is made by small and medium enterprises who work to go through the economy, have no time to dedicate to the open innovation, to the research, and it is important to valorize the expertise, the knowledge that universities and the research centers have, but sometimes they are speaking different languages. So the idea of the clusters, like in other parts of Europe, we are also a member of a European cluster collaboration platform, is to make people working together. So it's very difficult because the needs and the way of working are very different. So it's important to do, but it's also important to communicate and to work together. So this is our effort, and we are not the who is deciding the processes, but we are part of an environment, and we try to improve the communication and the results of that the region is trying to achieve. So it is not easy, but the idea is to improve the communication.
Okay,
yeah,
thank
also
you. So
just the
two
last
questions actually arrived, so maybe I will read the two questions, Francesco, and then leave the final words to you. So one question is, at the outset you mentioned that bottom-up processes are key, but in this case of the cluster policy goals are defined in a top-down manner. Do you see alternatives to such a procedure outside the policy actually implemented in the region?
Yeah, obviously, just to make it bottom up or top down. I mean, yes, it's true. We start from a top down, but then there is a strong discussion on it. I think that you can every time you should decide which is the best way. But if you want to do it top down or bottom up, it strongly depends on which is the capability and the skills of the ecosystem. Because just to do a bottom up process in sustainable development without having the people the awareness of the complexity can be very risky, because you start putting as priorities things that are not priority because you consider the single part. But in sustainable development is necessary what is said holistic approach. And also what Katia said before in terms of improving the public speaking, the capability to cooperate. This is a very important step. We see every day, Katia and me, in our field, that both on the research side and on the company side, there is not such a know-how on how to collaborate, the capability to be open-minded. I always repeat to my students what Jack Chan, the founder of Alibaba, said at the World Economic Forum of Davos. He said that robots will never be able to do only two things better than our human beings. The first one is to be creative. They will never be creative. And the second one, we are able to do team building, while robots will never be able to collaborate. We have to learn how to collaborate.
Okay, and then there is actually a question which is somewhat related to this. When do you draw the line in terms of knowing that capacity has been raised before starting the participatory process with problem identification, etc.? How long does capacity building should last?
Forever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, this is exactly what I wanted to say. It is said the lifetime we have to learn forever, and the threshold. I think that Katia has much more experience with me because she lived in Africa and worked there for many years. I don't know if we are able to put the lines to say the capacity is enough. I would say that we live with deadlines. The politician said you have to give me this document for this time, so we say we improve the capacity, but we start as we are. I think so, Katia, if you agree.
And we are working on innovation. So innovation is very fast, and you have to study and to know and to understand forever new things. So it's important to think as agents like us of awareness and so on. That is always necessary to update our knowledge and to understand something new, because it's very, very fast innovation and the needs are changing. And now with the digitalizations also, the speed is even more impressive. So forever, continuously.
Okay, there are no more questions in the chat, just a lot of thank yous for the presentation. So Francesco, you wanted to add something to conclude this webinar, please.
Thank you very much. And I would say that we hoped that we have been able to show a practice. It is not a best practice, it is a practice. And we hope that, I mean, there will be more collaborations and to widen our stakeholders in order to improve the know-how that we have. As Katia said before, we are continuously learning. And the important is just sometimes we should be able just to jump. What they say in the Silicon Valley, just do it, fail, but fail fast. That means that sometimes every day in my life, I experienced new things, and we have to be courageous to say that we know and we have to improve continuously. Thank you.
Okay, so let me thank on behalf of all the people who participated to this webinar. Let me thank Katia Ferrari and Francesco Matteucci for their very interesting webinar that we had today. And just a few words to remind everybody that the next CMCC webinar will be held on the 9th of June at 15 hours PM Central European Summer Time, and it will be on the 2 degrees target and energy jobs. Please stay tuned for more webinars on urban adaptation. As I was saying, we are still developing the whole series, so please stay tuned and join us next time. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.